Hello, friends. I wanted to talk to you guys about leaving the West and why I think it's a good idea for a lot of you. So, I left the West about 3 years ago. I was living in Ireland, which I do consider the West. It's Western Europe. It's very much an extension of the Western values, very much Americanized right now. It's very much influenced by England. Although they don't want to be influenced by England, a lot of the policies that England adopts, Ireland adopts 5 years later. Up until I was 25, I lived in Ireland. I'm very thankful for the opportunity to live in Ireland. I learned a lot there. I got my education there. I worked hard there. I did all the things that I was supposed to do. I was part of the community. I was very much involved in basketball. Over there, I was asked to play for their national basketball team. So there was a lot of different things that I did in Ireland to help the country itself. And then obviously I got some stuff back in return. Now, as much as I love Ireland, as much as I love the people, I love the culture, as much as I love the humor that's in the country, there is a better life outside of there, at least for me. There's a couple of reasons why I didn't like living in Ireland, and I'll explain those. And I think those will be very much related to people who are also living in Western countries. So one thing that I didn't like was the fact that the woke agenda was starting to seep into all areas of life, giving people rights and allowing people to express themselves. I think that's a very good idea. I'm completely okay with gay people, completely okay with people having different types of relations, let's say sexually. That's fine with me. I have no issue with that. I don't want people thinking about what I do in my private life, so I don't really care what anybody else does in their private life, provided you stay away from kids. Like, that's very important. You got to stay away from the kids. So I'm not with the woke agenda anyway. I'm not for it. I'm okay with the rights and stuff, but I don't like pride parades. I think it's very strange to not celebrate people that actually make the country run and to celebrate people that are just sexually different or have different sexual preferences. I think it's very strange. I think a couple of pride parades, I guess that makes sense for the first couple of years until they got their rights. But in the likes of Ireland, gay people can get married. They pretty much have all the rights already. They have everything. And most of the gay people that I know, at least, don't really enjoy the pride parades. They don't actually want all that attention. They would much prefer just be left alone doing what they do. Because a lot of gay guys are just normal dudes. A lot of them are more masculine than, let's say, the heterosexual males. You'll find that with time. A lot of the rugby players, with the rugby players in Ireland, we're not going to, if you know, you know. There's a lot of like these very athletic dudes, very masculine dudes that are gay. And that's okay. And a lot of them don't want the pride parades. They don't want the attention on them and stuff. I think they're very silent about it, but anyway, that's the woke agenda. So that I didn't like. I didn't like the Americanization of everything. I didn't like that everything was becoming commercialized. I didn't like the hypersexuality of everything. You go to the gym and you're hearing songs like Wet Ass Pussy. Like, it's just too much. And there's kids walking around and they have to listen to Wet Ass Pussy. For adults, it's not that big of a deal. But for teenagers, for young people, it's a bit too much. You sexualize someone too early, you turn them into a bit of a psychopath. That's just how the cookie crumbles. I also didn't like the uptick in immigration. So I was an immigrant originally. I was born in Lithuania. It's Eastern Europe. And we moved to Ireland when I was about 9, in around that age. And we already had a very good life in Lithuania. My family already had financial success. When we came to Ireland, we got robbed of everything. We got everything taken from us. So I started from the very bottom and less than the bottom, right? So because we have mountains of debt at the same time. Just got scammed by a bunch of people in Ireland, and it just snowballed into a very, very negative and bad life. But we were immigrants and we tried to do our part there. I never got into trouble. There's no police report about me. I never got into any kind of bullshit. I tried to stay away from everything. I was a top tier student. My master's was in neuropharmacology. I did my best to be like an exemplar immigrant, basically. I did my best. I did whatever I could do. The people that are coming in aren't necessarily people who want to make the country better. They're not trying to fit in. And that's the same in a lot of different countries. I know in Belgium, the local population is being replaced, basically. I know that in Sweden, similar things are happening. There's places where you can't go because certain immigrants have taken over parts of cities. And it's become so dangerous. Things like that, I'm not for. So when I was walking around I was from Galway, Ireland. So I was walking around Galway and I was like, lads, I don't recognize a lot of these people. And every week I'd see new people that I just wouldn't recognize. And Galway's a small town for context. So you kind of know everyone. You kind of see everyone. You're like, yeah, I know who that is. Even if you don't know their name, you're like, yeah, I kind of seen that face before. But it became where new faces kept popping up. And not faces that are like European faces. Irish people have their own race, their own ethnicity, right? They have their look, but it's a European look. You're white. Even the kind of faces like you just know from like previous waves of immigration, you would just notice their faces, right? The physiognomy. But now you started seeing people that are completely different. You had people coming in and they're very aggressive people. A lot of these people from war-torn countries, from like African countries that are clearly a mess, and those people are coming into Ireland. Now, when someone comes from a country that's a complete mess into a civilized country, I don't see how they can adapt that easily. I don't see how they can adapt very quickly. And I didn't like that a lot of the faces that I was seeing were very aggressive faces. So I don't really give a shit about someone's race. I don't care that much about where they come from. It's just their face. If they look very aggressive and they're like mean mugging you constantly, and they're posted up in the playground, let's say, where kids are supposed to be playing and they're smoking cigarettes, I have an issue. I have an issue with that. I have an issue with people carrying knives in Ireland. I didn't like that at all. I don't like that in the West. I don't like that in Europe. And I really did not enjoy seeing articles of, Somalians or Algerians stabbing children. I did not like that at all. Of course, I'm going to feel angry about something like that, because Ireland was supposed to be a safe place. And I'm not saying all of them, of course, but some of these people coming in, they're clearly there to do harm. They're there to do damage. Plus, a lot of these are military-aged men coming into the likes of Ireland. Now, if you've dated in Ireland, you'd understand that it's a very difficult place to date. Playboy tactics and all these like little tactics you hear the Americans speak about, how you can balance 5-10 women. It ain't gonna happen in Ireland, trust me. Your pickup lines aren't gonna work. That's not the country to do it. It's a very difficult country to date in. It's more about who you know. It takes time. Even the dating apps, like people check you, and Irish women are just very, very careful. So you're bringing in these lads, these men, military-aged men, who are hyper-aggressive, come from cultures where rape is okay, where it's not punished by the law, and you're going into a place where women are naturally reject people very quickly. What's going to happen? Bad things are going to happen. That's what you're seeing in the likes of Ireland. And I know it's very similar in other places in Europe and the West in general. So I don't like that at all. I have sisters that are still in Ireland and I still worry about them. I hope that they're safe. I don't want to be thinking like, oh, my sister's walking home from school. Is someone going to abduct her? That's just something I don't want to think about. So I'd rather not have that at all. And I'd rather limit immigration completely. And I think that immigration should be vetted. I think Ireland is a special place. I think Europe is a special place. Immigrants should be vetted. They should be like, what's your past job? Like, where did you work? What did you do? How much did you earn? What's your education like? Like, things like that are very important, because Ireland, it's very much about how well you adapt into the system. The people that are not good at assimilating to systems, the people who don't understand systems, the lower IQ types, they do very poorly in Ireland. And Ireland has to support them with welfare. In Ireland, we have a massive welfare culture. And people come in, they just get on the welfare and they want to be living their life on the welfare, doing nothing and doing fuck all. And, I get that if you're like a local in Ireland. If the locals agree on that, that's fine. But if you are someone that's coming from a different country purely for the welfare arbitrage, I don't like that. I don't like that at all, which is what Ireland has become. It's become like a welfare state for these third world immigrants, let's say. That's just how it is. Now, the other reason why I left the West was it became too bureaucratic. There's too much paperwork. The taxes are extremely high, but you're not really getting that much support for entrepreneurship. The bureaucracy is so high. There's so many rules, insurance forms for everything. And luckily for me, I have online businesses, so my income is completely location independent, so I get to move anywhere I want, and I teach people how to do that, those of you who are interested. Doing business in the likes of Ireland became very difficult. I just did not see a way out. In Ireland, you can do well with jobs if you have a high-paying job. I still kind of saw that the job market was not great in the likes of Ireland, because they're bringing in people that are underqualified. A lot of the Indians coming in have fake degrees, for example. They just Photoshop them and stuff. I don't know if people understand that. But the Irish person and the person who grew up in Ireland, let's say, who got educated in Ireland, they are outcompeted by someone who'll take a lower wage. They'll take less rights. That's not good. And my classmates, I remember in my master's degree, I dropped out early to go into business myself, but I heard from them that very few of them actually got jobs in the master's. And the master's was hyper specific. It was like neuropharmacology, so neuroscience and pharmacology. You have to be quite smart to get into something like that. So they couldn't even get jobs, most of them. They had to end up going into PhDs, delaying their jobs for another 4 years. And God knows if they'll still get the jobs. But that's kind of the market in the likes of Ireland. And I know in Canada, it's very similar situation. One of my mates made a video about that. The locals can't even get a summer job. Back in the day, you go work in an ice cream parlor or something. You do a bit of cleaning or whatever. You can't do that as much. Now all the immigrants are taking all those jobs. So that's kind of the situation with the West. So I left the West and I first moved to Portugal, which is still kind of the West. I mean, in Portugal, I was there for a while and then I moved to Asia, which I found very interesting. And Asia was very stimulating for someone like me. It has a lot of entrepreneurship. It doesn't have nearly as many rules. It's very open societies, which I kind of enjoy. There's still that conservatism where they don't let the outsiders have too much input, which again, I enjoy. Immigration is very controlled, which I enjoy. There's a lot of nice things in Southeast Asia. Other people like Latin America. Some people like Eastern Europe. Now, I was in Eastern Europe maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and I found that Eastern Europe had become safer than Ireland. And to me, that almost broke my heart because a lot of Eastern Europeans moved to the likes of the West to get some safety in their life. And now it switched. And those places were safer, I felt, than Ireland. That's very sad for me. That's very sad for me. And maybe that part of that is because many Eastern Europeans moved over to the likes of Ireland and made it less safe. Maybe. I'm not sure. There could be some truth to that for sure. But at the same time, it is very sad to see because I do love Ireland. So I think it's very important for those of you who are considering leaving the West in general. I think you need a couple of things. So number one, you need your online income. You have to learn how to make money online. You have to learn entrepreneurship, commerce. It's not that hard. I teach it. There's a link down below if you want to learn that. I don't want to sell you on anything too much. You can figure things out with online income. Things become a lot easier. When you have money coming in, and if you know how to do it smartly, you can set up passive income sources online. There's a lot of different opportunities right now. There's so many different niches, and I like to provide services online because it's like pretty much 100% margin. A service is provided. I keep the majority of the money, and that's very nice for business, and it makes life a lot easier. The cost of living is significantly lower in the likes of Southeast Asia. Not all places in Southeast Asia, and really depends on how you live. But if you want to have a decent life, you don't need all that much. So you just need your online income. That's very important. Some of you have savings. I think it's best if you have savings to use those savings to develop an online income. I think that's very good because you need to be doing stuff or having dividends in some way, getting paid in some sort of passive income. I think that's very important because you need cash to survive here. There are no safety nets in the likes of Southeast Asia or Latin America. Nobody's coming to save you. So you have to be a self-sufficient, a self-reliant individual. And that's cool. That's fine. It's not that hard to do. I've been doing it for 3+ years. My brother as well. Lots of people around me are doing it. And, when you travel to the likes of Southeast Asia or you travel to Latin America, you go to these hubs for nomads and you talk to people and you ask them how they make money, and you can basically copy their ways. You can learn their different business models. You can network with them. You can work together. Maybe they'll give you a job or two. So there's a lot of opportunities now. There's also online jobs. Those of you who are maybe more proficient in certain areas or in certain niches, you can work an online job, whatever job you're pretty much doing, right? Outside of let's say factory work or hands-on work, you can get online jobs and you can have the entire international market to choose from. So it's very, very useful. Outside of that, it's much safer. So you don't have to worry about the safety aspect. You don't have to worry about crime too much. Depends where you go, of course, be smart, but you don't have to worry about it. As I said, business is a lot easier to do. You can get very nice food in Southeast Asia as well. So there's pretty much everything that you need in the likes of Southeast Asia, Latin America. Eastern Europe is great as well, I think, right now. So lots of opportunities out there, guys. I think getting away from the West, getting away from the propaganda, I think important for me, at least. I want to raise kids into the future that are not going to be subjected to that propaganda too much. Those of you who are struggling in the West, I understand completely, but there is a better way out. At the end of the day, the government isn't going to save you, clearly. A lot of the governments are just listening to bigger powers, these societies that control them. I don't want to get too conspiratorial. It's all business at the end of the day. It's all capitalism. They need more money. They want to suck out more money from the Western people to fund wars, which just funnel money into the same people's pockets. But anyway, we're not going to get into that too much. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. You can also reach me on Instagram, Telegram. I think those are the two main places. And you can check out my website as well. I'll see you in the next one.